Hey guys, so today I thought I would give a bit of an update. What I'm going to try and do is give smaller updates, so maybe 3 or 4 updates per devlog because I have quite a lot to talk about, so I'm going to actually break this up into a few devlogs and release them over the weeks. And maybe in future try and keep devlogs a little bit shorter and more frequent like this. So let me know if you like this format more. So the first thing I have been working on with Chimeral Fantasy is a very important thing, a bug logging system. So this has actually proven really handy for me in debugging the game as well because I'm able to keep all my bug logs in one place rather than in a messy Excel sheet. I'm able to actually track what I did exactly to produce a bug, and I'm able to replicate it and see what errors are actually happening in the back end of things. So it's become very handy. What I've done is I've basically used Sentry to actually send the bug logs to. So Sentry collects all the messages from any logs or errors that keep happening and neatly stores them for me so I can peruse them at my will. It took a while to get it neat and working out nicely, but I think it's been really helpful now at this point in trying to figure out what happens when something goes wrong. And hopefully, then when I'm putting it into other people's hands, it's also going to make it much easier to actually keep track of what's happening with the code. The next thing I've added is actually more skills for each player. So basically, I want to have by the end of the demo point, I want each player character that the player has to have about 3 skills each. And I was thinking on what would make an interesting variety of skills to play with because obviously 3 skills is quite a limited amount, but it's also at the very start of the game where it makes sense to have that limited amount. So there was actually a couple of systems I had to add each of these skills. Something I've learned is at this point I have the battle code very neat to the point where it's much easier to add skills. It only took me about a day to implement additional things that will enable me to add things easier in future. So that was good to know. So I've added 3 skills. One of them is called Quick Legs, and it's basically a skill that just applies haste onto the party member. Another is called Life Flow, and that basically gives a little bit of health back to the party member for each time they take a movement. So the more movement, the better. This is for the melee character because they're probably going to be getting in the way of things a lot and potentially getting hit a lot. And I thought it made sense for them to have some sort of subtle recovery skill because they're basically a monk type character. So sort of acts as like a chakra style skill. And then another I added is just a basic heal skill for the main character. So I want them to be basically a nice, comfortable all rounder that they can neatly pair with any other 2 party members by the end of the game, and you have a good team. So adding a heal skill was kind of a no-brainer for that because then it doesn't force you into having a healing type character elsewhere. You can just have an all-rounder that sort of does everything kind of well rather than having to force yourself into choosing a character you might not want to play with. And because I added more actions and they unlock at certain levels, which should be early on enough in the demo to be fair, it won't be late or anything, so you'll have those actions quite quickly. I needed to add something by which after you unlock a new level, after the battle, it also tells you that you unlocked a new skill because otherwise you would just sneakily get more skills and that would feel really strange. So now after you finish a battle, you can click OK after it tells you you've leveled up, and then it tells you any new skills you've gained. It doesn't go to that screen if you haven't gained any new skills as well. I've also created more music. So I've added basically cave music, which I actually decided in the end because it was the forest caves, and I wanted the music to feel kind of connected to the forest. I changed the instrumentals for the forest to match a more cave-like feel. So it's actually pretty much the same composition, plus or minus a couple of little things, but with different instrumentals and mixed differently for the cave system. So here is a little sample to show you what I mean. I've also created some music for the Evil Forest, um, what I've been calling the Evil Forest. So I wanted it to establish a sort of confused feeling, because that's when the player first lands in this kind of strange dream world and realizes that they're somewhere different. I don't think the track has quite a sad or a happy feel, but it's more of a we're in a new world and this is strange kind of a feeling, which is precisely what's happening at the time that you'd be hearing that track. So I think it makes sense. So here is a little sample to show you what I mean. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you like this shorter form update. Um, I'm going to try release updates more regularly and in shorter forms like this because I'm getting enough work done that I definitely should be releasing updates about the game more frequently. And I think when I have to catch up on making a devlog, then often I have to make a really long devlog to make up for that. So I don't think that was making any sense. So hope you like this format of update where it's a bit shorter and more frequent. And hopefully I will see you again soon.